Okay, so today on the Peace, Power, and Miracle webinar, this is using the awareness-free method for eliminating overwhelm and increasing happiness. And we are going to be talking about a few things today. This is a celebration and an information. You're going to see me toggle between the video and the screen. So I'm hoping that that portion will work out fine. But some things that we're going to be talking about was a celebration because, and let's just go back to video here so you can see, well, you can see me. Okay, let's go back to video. Today is a celebration. It is a celebration of my book, Peace, Power, and Miracles, and I want to thank everyone who's been supporting me and bringing that to fruition. It's been a little bit of a journey, but an exciting one at that. And it's an information because what we're going to be doing is we're going to be giving you the information of some of the 3 keys in the book and to really help you take these awarenesses and hopefully integrate them into your own life. We're going to be discussing what the real problem behind every problem is. We're going to be looking at what each of these awarenesses are and how we can bring them into our life. We are going to be looking at a question and answers in case you have any questions and some of the benefits of really practicing these awarenesses in our life. And then I am going to be sharing with you some next steps if you want to take this further and really incorporate it into your life where you can have a life that's calmer, that's more peaceful, that's less anxiety filled and more carefree with more ease. And the last thing I'm going to share with you at the end is one of the major pitfalls that we all fall into, but the antidote that can help us get out of that pitfall. So stay tuned for that. All right. And let's just, a little bit about me is that my name is Dawn Petrolino. I'm a transformational coach. Yay, Sharon can hear us. Thank you, Sharon. I am a transformational coach for women in transitions, and I am also the creator of the Miracle Mondays on YouTube. I'm an author of the best-selling book, Peace, Power, and Miracles, and written for other publications as well. I'm an inspirational speaker, and I've spoken at many different network groups for women, as well as Transformation TV and several cable shows, sharing some of the truths that we're going to be sharing with you today. But let's back up to my story. There I am at the age of 5, because everything I just described to you didn't come overnight, and these awarenesses didn't come overnight. But let me give you the background. So there I am at the age of 5, and I, like probably many of you, grew up a very independent, strong child. That was my first day of kindergarten, and I am ready to go to the bus stop all by myself, mind you. I am walking because that's the way I did things, all by myself. And it actually served me for a while, being that kind of strong, independent, responsible kid. By the time I was in my late 20s, I really thought I had everything I wanted. I was in a marriage with a man that I loved. I lived in a home, a beautiful home on 2.5 acres. We had family and friends close by. I taught 3rd grade at an elementary school that I actually went to. And I had a good finances. I was financially fit, and I was physically fit. I mean, from the outside, everything really looked pretty good. From the inside was a very different story. I was anxious all the time. I worried constantly. I could never sit still. I couldn't relax in my life. And in my quieter moments, I would hear this inner voice that would say, "Is this all there is?" But I didn't want to hear that inner voice because this was a picture I had for my life. This had been my plan, and I was sticking with it. But in order to push away that voice, I ended up pushing it away with food, pushing it away with alcohol, pushing it away with busyness, with work. And then in 2005, a miracle happened. My marriage actually fell apart, which doesn't sound like much of a miracle, but it not only changed my life, it changed the way I did my life. We had moved down to South Carolina to where he had gotten relocated, and I took a teaching position down there. I would wake up at 4:30 in the morning. I would then come home at 11:30 at night. I would come home to a marriage that I didn't know how to be in anymore. So I would cry every day on the way to work, and I would cry every day on the way home. And at night I would cry, and I would just say to myself, I can't believe this is my life. And at the end of that year, that voice had gotten so loud, that voice of discontent, that I did something that a lot of people do throughout their life, but I did it in one fell swoop. I left the job, I left the marriage, and I moved to Charlotte, and I did it in a week. And I did this not because I was brave. I did this because I was in so much pain, because that inner voice had, like I said, had gotten so loud that I couldn't help but hear it. And at the time I was studying two books I still study, and you may have heard of them, A Course in Miracles and A Course in Love. These are considered sacred texts. They are spiritual self-study programs, and they use Christian terminology, but in non-traditional ways. And the Course in Miracles had said, his voice will direct you very specifically. You will be told all you need to know. And I wanted to see, I was in so much pain that I was willing to leave everything to see if I didn't have a plan for life. Did life have a plan for me? And the answer to that was a definite yes. Life did indeed have a plan for me. And if there's nothing else, well, let me tell you about the plan. So some things that happened that year is I took off for about a year just to recover, and I didn't have a plan. But I started getting nervous about what to do about a job. And in meditation, this is what I noticed, is the quieter I got, the more I could hear that inner voice. And I got in a meditation to open my own tutoring business, which I did not know how to do. But I knew this much. I knew how to listen, I knew how to trust, and I knew how to follow. And so I just did the next thing that came to my head, the next right thing, and the next best idea I had. And within 3 months, I had a full practice. And I did it with only one advertisement and no website. And I continue this practice today. And when I would get scared, I would get phone calls from parents or from parents whose name or their child's name was either Grace, Faith, or Hope. It happened so often that it pretty much became commonplace. In 2011, I received another idea to become a transformational coach and a healer. Now this I really didn't know how to do. But I did what I normally did, is I listened, I trusted, and I followed. And by the end of that year, I had a full-blown website, professional website done for free. I was coaching a few clients, I was teaching a few classes, and I had appeared on the local television station twice. And I don't tell you any of this to give you my resume, because none of this was in my plan. And that's the point. I learned that life wasn't about planning. Life was about listening, so you could hear what life's plan for you was. And that's what that year taught me. And I hope that before you leave today, that the one thing I want you to get is that we can reclaim our peace of mind in order to reconnect to that source, that inner being inside of us, where we do feel calm, where we do feel capable, where we do feel a deep peace and a fulfillment. And I'm not saying I did this perfectly. I don't do this perfectly, but I do have the tools to keep coming back to center, to keep hearing the voice of that inner being inside of me. And it is that inner being that is going to lead us. I mean, can you imagine a world where you're not worried, where there's no fear, where there's no planning? That's what happens. When we connect to that inner being, we're trusting in that source to guide us and to lead us. You know, the problem is that we think that we have all these problems. but we really have one, and it is our disconnection to the source of power within us. So I want to show you something right now. We're going to do an exercise. And I apologize, I meant to tell you to have a piece of paper and a pencil if there's anything that comes to you during this webinar or during these exercises, you can write something down. So the first thing I want you to write down is I want you to write down 3 things that you think would make you happy right now if you had them. I know there might be more, but if you had 3 things that you think, well, when I really had that, that would make me happy. And then I am going to tell you the truth. Something you might already realize is that none of those things are going to bring you deep peace and fulfillment. See, when we think that conditions are going to bring us happiness, then we are basing our happiness on the circumstances around us. And that means we are going to spend a lot of time and energy trying to control those circumstances to our liking in order to feel good. But the truth about happiness is this. Happiness only comes from being connected to our true nature, to the source inside, to that inner God self, whatever you want to call it, that life force. That is what brings us connection. That is what brings deep fulfillment. That is what brings us happiness. In order to feel that, we have to have our hearts and mind joined. The Course of Love says union, and union meaning where we are joined with the power within us, comes from having our hearts and our minds joined. That is how we access the mind of God. Now, these 3 awarenesses are here to show us that oftentimes we don't have this lovely little connection between the heart and the mind. But when we can get there, that's when we can hear guidance. That's when we can hear that inner voice. We think that we have a lot of problems in our life. We have problems at work. We have problems at home. We might have problems with our mates or our significant loved ones. We have problems with money. We might have problems with health. And in these day and age, we have problems with the environment and the world. And there's a lot of pressure. There's a lot of stress. We feel all these responsibilities because we're trying to control all these circumstances so that we can be okay. But what's really happening is when we're feeling all this stress, that we are affecting ourselves physically, emotionally, and mentally. So physically, our bodies, stop sharing my screen for just a moment. So physically, our bodies are dripping in cortisol, right? Cortisol is used as a chemical that's used in the body whenever we are going through crisis. It gives us a burst of energy. And trying to control all of these things, that the cortisol is never really leaving. When our mind is in that state, that cortisol just continually drips. So we're burning and craving these sugars, but we're not burning any fat, which means that we're gaining weight. It's affecting, we develop hypertension. It affects our immune systems. We feel fatigued. It can affect diabetes, our allergies. And emotionally we're feeling strained because emotionally we are feeling that sense of urgency. We are feeling anxiety. We are feeling depression. We are feeling overwhelmed. And mentally what happens then is mentally when we're in that overwhelmed state, that we actually hook into the limbic brain, which is the emotional brain. And when we get into that stressed, overwhelmed state, we start reacting. Now, if we hook into that limbic brain, we're reacting, but we're reacting from past experiences. We're reacting based upon what we've learned from the past. It's almost like you're on autopilot. You're not even thinking about it. That's why it's called a reaction. You're reenacting what you've done in the past. And we aren't able to access this prefrontal cortex, which is the new brain. the new brain that has the focus, that has reason, that can problem solve, and what I call even the wiser mind, because we're in this reaction mode with the old brain. And more than that, we're exhausted. We are mentally fatigued by the end of the day. We get into this obsessive thinking and this planning and this scheduling that we no longer have a direct experience, a direct joyful experience of life. We're living for mind, but we're not living life. And the whole point of the three awarenesses is to get us reconnected again. And let me just show you that. So what I want you to realize is, through my experiences and through these three awarenesses and through the coaching, is what I've learned is that we can connect. We can have a direct felt experience of that life force within us. And when we can connect to that inner voice, that life force within us, we can relax in our life. That is the life force that we can move through our life with more freedom and contentment and peace and joy. And that's what we're trying to do here with these three awarenesses. Now, before I go on, let me tell you that we've got to give you a little bit of background that some of you may already realize. Everything is energy. You're energy, I'm energy, everything in our world is energy. And the quantum physics now validates this, that everything is energy. You are connected to a life force within you. And this life force is the same life force that created worlds. It created universes. It created you. It exists in you. It never left you. But what we want to do is we want to access it again, because we've disconnected from it. You know, the Course of Love tells us that you are a thought of God, an idea. This thought or idea is what you seek, and it can be found only at its source. Its source is love, and its location is in your own heart. And what we want to do is connect you back to that heart space, so you can hear that inner voice and begin to follow the path that's right for you and listen to your own inner guidance. And so you're not rocked by the circumstances that happen, because you're being led by the only steady, sure thing, which is your source of power, your higher self, that higher being within you, that God self. When we can hear that inner voice, we will be shown what to do. That was my experience. That's the experience of the people I coach. That's the experience of people who learn to follow this path. Is the path to follow all changes will be shown to you if you are but attentive. If you follow the way you are shown, all uncertainty will end. Can you imagine living in a world where you are not afraid, where you are not in self-doubt, where you feel a sureness inside you that you are capable of handling whatever comes up? That's the kind of world and connection we're talking about. And what these three awarenesses are meant to do is to reconnect you back to that centered higher self, where you can begin hearing that inner voice and being directed by it. So, 2 requirements to hearing that inner voice. You have to have a present open mind, and you have to have an open heart. Remember the heart and the brain connection in the beginning? That is union. That is wholeness. And when those hearts and minds are joined, that is the third entity. That is guidance. That is God. That is higher self, inner being. And so that's what we're going to do. So let's take a look at the first awareness. The first awareness is about getting back to the present moment. Because what happens is, circumstances come in our life and we get fearful. And it's that fear that pulls us out of the present moment. It's also whenever we're into the planning and the scheduling, because what is all that? That's future planning. It's thinking about what I need to do. I don't know about you, but my mind would spit out my list of things constantly. I describe it like ticker tape. And I would follow it. And I was exhausted before I even got out of bed in the morning because I was thinking of everything that I had to do. I was not feeling good. But the awareness of thought drops all that. It frees your mind and it gets you back to that present moment where we create a space in our mind. So what blocks us is when there's a couple things. It's the beliefs we have about the world. It's the beliefs we're holding about the things that we need to do. It's the trust of not getting what we want or afraid of losing what we have. These are all fears. And so getting back to the present is really looking at our fears and being able to leave a crack of space so that the God mind can enter in. So let's do an exercise now where I want you to think of a stress that you are having in your life right now. And I want you to look at and write down or mentally, what are you believing about the situation in order for this to be a problem? What are you believing about the situation in order for this to be a problem? Now think about that. What would you have to believe if this were actually a problem? Now, if this situation were actually here to help you in some way, what then would you have to believe? If you knew that this was here as a personal gift to you to help you in some way, what would you have to believe? All right, now which one of those ideas feels calmer to you? Which one of those ideas brings relief? Because I'll tell you this, your inner guidance, we talked about that life force energy. That is the highest vibration of love. This is love. And when you connect to love, you feel lighter, you feel peaceful, you feel calm, you feel, at the very least, you feel some relief. So looking at your beliefs right now, which one feels calmer? Which one brings relief? That is the truth. That is your higher being directing you and saying it, see it this way. That is one way we begin to open space in our mind to reconnect back to that inner source, that God self within, is that we look at the situation and we say, wait a minute, how else could I see this? Now, sometimes it's not enough just to look at your fear and to recognize it. We often have to replace it, and that's a tool that I use, and in my online program, this is one of the tools, is repeating mantras. Now, I go into other tools and other ways to get back to the present, but this is a powerful one, and these are the ones we talk about as affirmations. And I've just listed some that I like to use that feel good to me. I know everything is working out perfectly for the highest good. I am safe and I am loved. I am always in the right place at the right time. The universe loves me and is always working on my behalf. What I have to give today is enough. God is my source and my supply, and I do not depend on people or circumstances for my good. God provides for me now through his own amazing channels. And that one is one that got me through a lot. But you want to pick the words that resonate with you. And when you're feeling afraid, if you are afraid of, let's take money, and if you're afraid of getting enough to cover your bills for the month, it might not feel good to you to say, I will have $500 by the end of the month. That might actually bring up more fear. So that's not a good affirmation. You go to what feels good to you. I will be taken care of. It will all work out. Everything is working out perfectly. I have everything I need. I always have everything I need. You choose the words that resonate, that calm you, that calm your mind, and get you back to the truth. The reason they feel lighter is because they are the truth. All right, so let's take a look now at the awareness of the heart. Now, this tool, Well, let me give you a little background about emotion first. Awareness of emotion. A little background about emotion is emotion, energy in motion. Your body is designed to constantly vibrate, to constantly resonate with the inner source, with the inner being of love inside of you. When we do not feel that, when we do not feel that peace, when we do not feel that contentment, when we do not feel that quiet joy, it is because one thing is the fear. We talked about that in the awareness of thought. But in the awareness of emotion, it can come through pains. We feel emotion, and there's nothing wrong with any emotion that you have. And the Course of Love tells us none of your emotions or feelings are good or bad. And the problem is we end up labeling them that way, and we only allow ourselves to feel certain ones and not others. But let me discuss the two types of pain. So one type of pain is the pain from the past. These are places in our lives where we've been hurt, where we've been wounded, and that pain, when it was felt at the time, was either not processed, it wasn't witnessed, it wasn't validated, and instead it was probably pushed down and shoved away. That pain still exists in our bodies. If you think of a hose, and the hose has the water running through it, that's your life force. Now, if you kink up that hose, that life force, that water can't get through, or it only gets through in a trickle, in a fraction of what it could be. Well, the pain from our past is blocked energy in our body, and it's like that kinked hose. So where we see this the most is in our relationships, in our romantic relationships. Because if I was wounded in some way by a significant person in my life, and that pain was never really processed or witnessed or validated, then it's still in my body, and it still needs to be felt. But if I haven't really felt it, then the next time I run into a similar situation, which, by the way, the universe is going to send you similar situations. That's why we date the same person over and over again, is because it's meant to heal us, to bring up that past pain. That's why we call it a trigger. We jump into reaction mode. We bring up that past pain. We react in a habitual way, in a fearful way, in the way that we learned would protect us from further pain. And then we wonder why we end up in these patterns. But the universe is bringing these situations into our lives to bring up the pain in order that it be healed in the present. So it's there to heal in the present what could not be healed in the past. But you have to be able to feel that emotion in a way that shifts it. Now, that is different from just feeling an emotion. I can just say, wow, I'm feeling sad. But most of the time what might happen, I talk about this in the book, is that we either get so kind of caught up in the emotion or we push it away because we don't want to feel it. But there is a way of feeling an emotion directly, which is what the awareness of emotion is all about. Now, the second kind of pain is present-day pain. These are things that usually we have to let go of. This is dreams, identities, people, marriages, homes, even our control. Now, present-day pain means it's happening right now, and you'll probably go through the grief process with it. Now, if there's any part of the grief process that you do not allow, that then could again make that energy become stuck in your body and become a past pain. But present-day pain can be very clean. You know, my father passed away last year, and I had worked through many of the past pains. So at the time that he passed, even though I felt very sad, I also felt a supreme amount of love and gratitude. I was able to feel both. So that present-day pain of letting him go was not pulling up a huge amount of past pains with it. It was very, what you might say, clean. So those are two types of pains. And let's give you an example or an experience of what it is like to actually feel a feeling from the awareness of emotion. Now, before I do, two things you're going to need are two keys to help transform an emotion are self-compassion and self-acceptance. And I go into different exercises in the program to really help develop these, because honestly, I don't think we have enough self-compassion and not nearly enough self-acceptance for ourselves. But when you can cultivate these, then you can take them into your experience with your awareness of the emotion, the exercise we're going to try out next. And it helps to transform the emotion. And again, these are two key ideas, and we go deeper with it on the online course, but let's give you an experience right now. So unless you're driving, I'm going to ask that you close your eyes, that you simply, we're going to take a count of 4. We're going to breathe in for 4. We're going to hold the breath for 4 and then slowly breathe out for 4. And we're going to do about 3 rounds of this. So breathe in for 4. Hold it for 4. And breathe out for 4. Breathe in for 4. Hold it for 4. And breathe out for 4. And last, we're going to breathe in for 4. Hold it for 4. And breathe out for 4. Now I just want you to begin to notice the feelings of your sit bones on your chair or your seat. Notice the position of your hands. Notice the sensation of your feet on the floor. And now I want you to take your awareness and I want you to notice any inner sensation, anywhere in your body that feels activated. It might be a buzzing in your chest. It might be a stiffness in your shoulders. It might be a heaviness in your gut. Just notice what you notice. We're not trying to fix it. We're not trying to control it. We're just expanding our capacity to be with it. What you're feeling is an emotion. And we're just making it welcome and allowing it to be there. Now I'm going to ask that you take another deep breath and open your eyes and come back. So what that is it was just a little taste of a process where you can feel your emotion. I give the process in the book. I also do a direct guidance with the course. And because sometimes it's helpful to have somebody there to kind of guide you through it. But that is having a direct felt experience of the emotion versus just saying, I feel sad. And then what do? We get caught up in our thinking about it. We say, oh, I feel sad, I feel sad. And that stays in our head. But this actually transforms the emotion. I had a client that she was able to cut her depression medication down in half because she was able to do this. Another one was able to feel the entire weariness and heaviness in her body just leave her body, and she felt refreshed and relaxed. I have another person who, she was going through, another client was going through some difficult circumstances, but because she was able to do this, that energy was not remaining stuck in her body. So she was actually able to do this while she was going through the circumstances. For myself, this has been a key to transforming the way I react in relationships, in different circumstances in my life. I got through depression and anxiety, all because of this one tool. So it's a very huge tool that I use in the online course, but I also use it in my own life, and I stress it in the book as well. The biggest thing that happens is that when you're allowing yourself to feel the feeling this way, you actually experience yourself as your higher self sees you. You return to your natural state, your natural vibration, which is love, which is peace, which is relief, which is joy. Now, you might not feel all those things at once, but at the very least, when I'm most depressed, I would feel relief. And it would eventually it passed, and then I got to feel some of the love and the joy and the kind of eagerness for life that goes along with it. But you're going to see how your higher self sees you. So where before you felt lonely, you're going to feel love. Where before you felt abandoned, you're going to feel connection. Where before you might have felt grief, you're going to feel relief. It returns you to your natural state. Now the next awareness is the awareness of the heart. Now, this is where your heart speaks to your mind. Now, we know that the brain can talk to the heart, but science has actually discovered that the heart has over 40,000 neurons in it. They call it the little brain because we now know that your heart can speak to your brain. And when it does, you gain more clarity and intuition, hence your inner voice. Just like the Course of Love says, when the heart and mind are joined, that is where union occurs. So the awareness of the heart is listening to that inner voice, but we have to have a calm mind and an open heart in order to hear it. Okay, so we're going to try a little exercise here for the awareness of the heart. And what I'm going to ask you to do is, again, you're just going to close your eyes. You're going to put your hand on your heart. You're going to feel your hand against your heart. And I just want you to breathe into your heart. Take a couple breaths and just breathe into your heart. And then ask your heart, heart, what are you longing for? And wait. And notice any images. Notice any sensations, any memories. Just notice what comes up when you ask, heart, what are you longing for? It might be to get away in nature. It might be to laugh with friends. It might be to share deeply with someone. It might be to work on a creative project. Just notice. Okay, so that is one way your guidance talks to you through your longings. Now, sometimes, and I'm going to put myself back on the screen here, sometimes that we're not able to actually follow our guidance because of maybe rules we have in our heads. So, or wounds that we have in our bodies, which that's going back to the awareness of thought and the awareness of the emotion. So guidance happens whenever you can connect those two and you can hear that guidance, you can hear that longing and are able to follow it. Now sometimes, I know for myself, I was very, like I said, over-responsible child, and in my head, I couldn't relax because on some level I thought of that as laziness, as irresponsibility. If I had things to do, to not do them was irresponsible. And who's going to let themselves be irresponsible? That was a belief I had. So I couldn't follow my guidance when I longed just to like stop in the middle of the day, to just go sit in the sun, to just share with friends, and I couldn't let myself do it. But when I learned that the opposite of responsibility isn't irresponsibility, the opposite of responsibility is carefree. When I learned that, plus when I was able to go through the awareness of emotions, I was able to allow myself that space to actually follow the guidance that I was given. Now, I've had clients that have, one of my clients, she began following her guidance, and she ended up creating a baking business where she bakes organic breads and nutrition bars. I had another client who was able to move to a different state. I had another client who was able to leave a relationship and really set boundaries in the relationship because she was following her guidance. I myself have found homes, left homes, found relationships, found friendships, found jobs, all through following my guidance. And that's really what we're talking about, is we're talking about getting in touch with that inner voice. So we're going to go back to our screen for a moment. And in the book, Peace, Power, and Miracles, I explained to you that the awareness of the heart teaches you to trust and exist in this new reality of the unknown with confidence and love. And it says the reality of the unknown because what's happening is we're becoming present. We're not trying to anticipate the future. We're existing in the present moment, but we're able to exist there with confidence, with love, with certainty, and with deep contentment and peace. And that's what the awareness of the heart teaches you to do, is to follow that inner voice so you know how to navigate in this world. It's not up to you to control it. You just have to know how to listen to it. All right, so let's talk about some of the benefits of being able to incorporate this into your life. Why do we want to spend time on this stuff? Well, I'm guessing the people who are interested in this are already into spirituality and self-growth. And so some of these are going to make sense to you. When you're able to join your heart and mind, and this becomes more automatic for you, you're actually able to calm your nervous system. You get out of that obsessive thinking mode. You can stop worrying. You know how to come back to center even when the conditions of your life change. You actually gain clarity. You're able to make these powerful choices that address not what your mind, your fearful mind's telling you, not what your reactions are telling you, but your real needs and desires. And this one is huge. You come to love and accept and approve of yourself. You develop a deeper relationship with yourself. And that is the self, that is the higher self within you. You gain this unshakable confidence in yourself. And you're able to go through and follow through actions that actually empower you and the quality of your life. You can handle difficult emotions. So when your pendulum goes off center, you know how to come back. And you can come back and still find peace and joy in your day. You can lower your anxiety. These are huge. The constant need to be in control, and you're not consumed with your have-to list. You can actually relax in your life, and you can enjoy being present where you are. As a result of that, you're going to improve your health. The harmony in your relationships is going to improve, but most importantly, you gain peace of mind, which is the number one prosperity, is peace of mind. Now, I did tell you that I would share more, that if you really want to make this way of life, this life that you can have a deeper peace, a calmer mind, be more present, hear your guidance, follow that inner voice without the worry, without the control, that the next steps I wanted to lead you with, what I'm offering is on Tuesday, next Tuesday, this is a live online program that's happening from May 9th to June 20th from 7 to 8 p.m. That might change 7:30 to 8:30, but right now it's 7 to 8 p.m. And this online course, these are just some of the things that we're going to be covering. You can find out more at dawnpetalino.com/peacepowermiracles, all one word. You're going to notice that in the first module, we talk about, this is the introduction, how we disconnect from ourselves, and there are the 4 R's to get out of overwhelm, so when you're caught up in it, you can get out right away. In Module 2, we look at the awareness of thought, practicing that non-reaction, and getting past all that habitual thinking that's kind of mucking up our minds. In Module 3, we look at how you can really become present and pull yourself into the present, including the 5 ways that your survival brain tries to protect you. Because once you kind of know what your brain's doing, oftentimes if you can label it, you can detach better from it. Module 4 is the awareness of emotion, and this is where we look at the antidote to suffering. This is really the piece I want to cultivate, the self-compassion and greater self-understanding that really helps to move and shift the emotions inside of us and build a better relationship with ourselves. In Module 5, we learn the methods to move the emotion, and this is kind of a little bit of the exercise that you tried. We transform an emotion back to love, and this is what talk therapy will not teach you. In Module 6, we have awareness of the heart, and this is where you actually get in touch with your guidance. You can hear what your heart is calling you to do. And in Module 7, we look at the roadblocks and the rewards, and that's kind of putting it all together so you can keep moving forward in your life. Now, in addition, you'd be getting access to guided meditations, PDF guide sheets with each module, become part of the Facebook group. You get the PDF version of the book, Peace, Power, and Miracles, if you don't already have it. You have 27 support from me as a personal guidance. Plus, for anyone who signs up within the next 24 hours, you get the bonus 12 recorded teachings from A Course in Miracles and A Course of Love on various topics. And you can find this all at dawnpetalino.com/Peace, Power, and Miracles. Now, when I did this program previously, I did offer it for $597, but because I've changed it a little bit, so it's a little bit new, I'm offering it for $287 or 3 monthly payments of $97. And if you miss a session, that's not a problem. Everything is recorded, and you receive it to do at your own pace and time, and you can also catch up with me. You'll be sent right away a questionnaire on the fears and the falsehoods of the mind, so you can begin differentiating what some of the beliefs that you are currently living under before we actually begin the program. And again, this begins next Tuesday at 7 o'clock on May 9th. Okay, so I told you, I wanted to share with you what some of the people had said about this when they learned these 3 awarenesses incorporating this. And I'm not going to read all of these, but I just wanted to highlight that Carrie talks about finding an actual sense of self. She says, through the work together, I was able to see that I am more than the labels by which I define myself. I am more at peace with my life and have been able to take advantage of opportunities for personal growth, which I would have previously missed. Zoraida says that I was able to find my center, face feelings, and reclaim distant parts of myself. And that really had a lot to do with the awareness of emotion. And she was able to take risks because of that. And Teresa mentioned, so much of what I took away has been about detaching from my thoughts and habitual actions. Best therapy I ever had, seriously. Okay, I promised you a roadblock. And the number one roadblock that we all run into from time to time, and it's nothing new, but it's where we are trying to force solutions where we don't have control. So this is whenever we are wanting something so badly, where we're so attached to it, and we're afraid we're not going to get it, or we might be afraid we're going to lose something that we have. We start to get into the obsessive thinking. You'll notice the desperation behind your acts. And when you notice that desperation, you notice how stressed and anxious and worried you are. You start to feel crazy. All right, so here's the clue. If you're feeling crazy, ask yourself, what am I trying to control that I don't have control over? That is part of the antidote. It also means when you're stressed, you're out of alignment with your higher self. That's a red flag right there. So you have to get back to that peaceful place through the awareness of the thought, the awareness of the emotion. But the antidote right away to that forcing solution is just acknowledge what you want. Be honest with yourself. Just admit it. Say, yeah, you know what? I really, really want this. And it makes sense that you want it, right? Because you think it's going to help you feel good. So that makes sense. And accept yourself for where you are right now. Again, of course you want it. Why wouldn't you? It's something that you feel is your heart. Maybe your heart wants, or maybe it's something you think is going to make your life better. So just admit it and accept it, acknowledge it. Love where you're at right now. And then look at, all right, what am I trying to control that I can't? And what do I really have control over now? And surrender the rest. And you'll notice by your sense of relief, by your sense of calmness, by that kind of sigh, that you've gotten back into alignment with your higher self. Okay, well, I wanted to ask at this point if there were any questions. You can simply click that chat box at the top and type in your questions. I do have a few questions here that I had gotten from some people earlier that I'll address. But if you have any, feel free to type them into the chat box. The first question I have here is, I've tried many things to try and get calm, but I'm not able to sustain it. And that's a good point. You don't have to try. I mean, we all have tried maybe a lot of different techniques. You don't have to do a lot of things. You just have to do a few things consistently. That's why in this program, I made it 7 weeks and not just a weekend, because in order to rewire our brain, It takes time. It also takes support. So, you know, in the program, we offer the support of me and the group and the Facebook group as well. But for yourself, you might want to get up an accountability partner. Anytime you're trying something new, some way that you can kind of keep yourself accountable and that you're going to continue doing it. Again, you don't have to do a lot of things. You just have to do a few things consistently. The second question was, I can't quiet my mind. It always seems that there are these thoughts, and I don't know which ones to listen to. Well, that makes sense. We all have all these thoughts that kind of run through our mind, and it's really about detaching from all of them. You want to get to that place of neutrality. So you're really about trying to calm the mind and just getting back to peace. Keep it simple. Keep it simple. Just get back to a place of peace, whatever would bring you peace or relief right then. And don't worry about the thoughts. Just go back to that place of peace. When we give ourselves permission to feel that peace, then whatever thought would actually be best for us, that's the thought that will come up. That's the thought that will come up. And I do this in my meditations. And really, I cannot stress enough how important meditations are. I started a free meditation group every other week. And part of this online course is I'm going to be incorporating that people can join that or get the playback, the recordings of it. It's a guided meditation, but that is exactly what we're doing. We're learning to calm the mind, to get peaceful, because that's when you hear your guidance. That's where thoughts come to you. You know, the idea of a tutoring business and a coaching, being a coach, it wasn't something I came up with. They came to me. And so the biggest thing about the thoughts is just get to that place of calm and trust that what you need to think, you will be given. You will be given. And the final question I have here is, what do you do after you recognize a feeling and you're feeling it? How do you get it to pass through or shift? What do you do next? Well, as I mentioned, the awareness of emotion, you don't just want to say, well, oh gosh, I'm just, you know, I'm angry. I mean, that's good to recognize it. And it might be in your body for a little bit, but at some point you want to use the process I described either in the book or in the online program or that we talked about here, where you have a direct felt experience of it and you're actually making the emotion welcome. That's what's going to shift the emotion. All right. I want to thank all of you for joining me on this webinar. And again, check out the book, check out the program at dawnpetalino.com/peacepowermiracles. And I hope that by the end of this program, that you really get that we can stop taking the reins and the control of our life, that you will be okay. You will be okay because you can get to a place of calm and peace, and that really allows the power within you to direct your life. You can allow life to give to you the life that you are worthy of receiving. So thank you, and I hope that you have a wonderful, miraculous day. Bye for now.